In our last video, we got a look at one of the most important formulas in an algebra course, which is distance equals rate times time. Use a lot. Got to be real comfortable with that. We're going to work with formulas in this entire section. Some of them we're just going to do similar. We're going to plug in the numbers and just solve, just using our algebra skills to solve for a variable that we don't know. The second half of the video, or this particular lesson, is going to require us to solve a formula using our algebra skills when we don't have all the numbers. And that's really useful too in applications like physics and any of the science fields. We do it a lot in mathematics, of course, as well. So let's get started. Okay, so real simple here. We're back to distance equals rate times time. Now the first thing they're telling us, we have d and r, which is what we did in the last video. We're plugging in d and r, but I don't know time. So all you'd have to do is divide both sides by 65. Now, when they're saying in general, I'm going to help with this one here. What we're going to do is we're going to act like every other, so they're saying we don't have the numbers. We want to solve for t, and what we're going to do is act like everything else is just a number. Suppose I had this, so the variable I'm interested in is t. Let's pretend everything else is a number. Well, if I were trying to get t alone, wouldn't I just divide both sides by that number in front? Well, let's pretend r is a number. I would just do the exact same pattern. I would just divide away the r, and I'd have d over r, which can't be combined. We're just going to have to leave it like that, equals t. Okay, so they're telling us we've got two of the I don't knows. This is exactly like the last video. Now I'm looking for r. All right, now we saw in the last video, I would flip this around so it's more comfortable. You can multiply either way, so this is 4r. Divide both sides by 4, and we get our value for r. It's 45. All right, now in general, so what they're saying is we want to solve for r, and we're going to treat everything else like it's not I don't know. Now, here's another trick that I use in class, and I think it's really helpful. What I want to do is I want to put the I don't know I'm looking for at the back. So do you see, I've just rearranged these. Now the reason I did it is because this is how we're used to seeing it, with the I don't know we're looking for at the back there. So we just act like everything else is a number. So obviously the 3 would go away first to get r by itself. Well, the t will go away. Do it to one side, you got to do it to the other. So d divided by t equals r. Okay, same thing. I don't really think we need to do another one of these, but I'll do it real quick. Equals r times 12. Well, that's really the same. We're going to flip that around. Divide both sides by 12. And I get 65 equals r. All right, they want us to do it in general. We've actually already done it. It's the same thing. I'm going to move the r to the back. Now, if you had a number in front of r, you would divide it away. So d divided by t equals r. All right, so we have another formula here. I'm going to let them just plug in for us. So they told us we know a and b. This is the area of a triangle. So I've got 1/2 base times height. What I don't have is height. Well, all I've got to do is crunch down now. I've got everything but height. 1/2 of 15. Well, hold on. I don't like the way they're doing that. 90 was 1/2. Well, now that I see it, it's not so bad after all. I would combine these first, though. I'm going to get 90 is 15 over 2 times h. Okay, just those could simplify. Now I have a number in front of h, so how do I get rid of it? Well, we saw it's really keep, change, flip, but you can just jump ahead and just go, okay, I'm going to multiply that fraction upside down. Just turn it upside down and multiply it to the other side. So 90, how many 15s go in? 96, yeah. So 2 times 6 equals h, because those will cancel, so 12 equals h. Okay, now we've got 170 equals 1/2 times 17 times h. So I've got 170 equals 17 over 2 times h. Now we're going to multiply it by 2 over 17 on both sides. Now this reduces down to 10. So 2 times 10 is 20. So my height must be 20. Now in general we've done it already. It's exactly the same thing. Oh, maybe I didn't do this on the last one. I should have. Maybe I skipped over that. Okay, so I've got h at the back. That's what I want. And I'm going to pretend everything else here is a number. Now there's a couple ways that you could think of this. I will have students, let me do it like I'll do in class. I'll often have students think of everything in front of there is just like a giant number. So if this was 3h, I would divide both sides by 3. Well, I'm going to divide both sides by 1/2 over b, the whole thing, just like it was just one number. Okay, so I would have this. Now, if students are struggling with this, I would let them, I even give them credit for this. But the truth is, mathematically, you've got a fraction on the bottom. He turns upside down and comes up to the top. So this is going to turn into 2a over b equals h. Now, this is the way I would teach it in class. I would have moved the 1/2 down, turn him upside down, he moves to the top. Now, let me show you the other way. Now, I want to get h by himself, but we could have just multiplied by 2 over 1, done them in pieces here. That would eliminate the 1/2. Do it to one side, you do it to the other. So I'd have 2a equals bh. Now, you've got something in front of h, you would just divide it away. And you'd have 2a over b equals h. Okay, we've got 62, just plug it into the formula, equals b. Now we have the h. Now, I would tidy this up. I would put this in the proper order. I want to have my b at the back just because we're used to seeing it that way. So now I'm going to put these over, make them one fraction. Multiply both sides by 2 over 31, called the reciprocal. Cancels down, gives me 2. 2 times 2 is 4, so b must be 4. Okay, we're going to do it in general again. Now, I went ahead, I moved b to the back, because that's the one they want. Now, you could think of this as all one thing that needs to be divided away. So I'll show it that way too. So I would divide that away from both sides, because it's a number. Do it to one side, I do it to the other. Okay? Now, you could flip that 1/2 upside down. A fraction on the bottom turns upside down, so I'd have 2a over h equals b. Or you could have multiplied the 2 like upside down first, 2 over 1 on both sides, and then divided by the h, you'll get the same thing. All right, we've got a new formula here, same idea. I'm plugging in, they gave me interest, they gave me the rate, and they gave me time. Just be careful. This rate is a percentage. We'd have to put it in as a decimal. Now we crunch that down, divide both sides by 0.28, and we get our P, which stands for the principal amount of money. Now they want us to do it in general. So I'm going to move P to the back. So we're solving for P in general. Now, without the number there, this is even easier. I'm going to treat that all as a number. If it was 3x, I would divide both sides by 3. Well, if it's RT times the variable, I'm going to divide both sides by that. So I get I over RT equals P. Okay, they told us 2160. We're looking for principal. We've got a rate of 0.06 and a time of 3. Now, I like to move it to the back, but I'm going to just leave it here so it doesn't really change what happens. So, well, actually, since I'm writing another step. So this turns into 0.18p. Now, I'm going to just divide away 0.18. And I get 12,000. All right, nothing really changes. We already did this one in general, but I'll do it again. I move it to the back. I'm going to divide both sides by that. I'm going to get I over RT equals P. Okay, we've got 5,400 equals principal times 0.12. You got to make it a decimal. Time is 5. So I've got 5,400 equals 0.6 times the principal. So 5,400. Now I know it's a decimal, but it doesn't change anything. It's still just a number, so I'm going to divide both sides by 0.6. And you get P as 9,000. Okay, in general, it's the same thing. We're not going to do that again. Same thing. We've done that one twice. Okay, now I'd rather just be doing all these in general at this point, but let's put in. So they tell us we've got x is 4. So we put in 4 there, and I'm solving for y. So I'm just going to clean up that room now. 3 times 4 is 12, and then they're just solving an equation. You find y. Now let's do it in general. Okay, this is a good question. So I'm trying to get y by himself. Suppose I had some number. I'm going to treat everything else like it's just a number. Well, if this was I had, the x is just another number, who would leave first would be the 6. I want the factor puzzle, so I would subtract 6. Well, if I'm going to get the 6 out of there by subtracting him, I would do the same if it's 3x. So everything else is going to be treated just like it's a number. I would subtract that group from one side, then I would do it to the other. Now these don't combine, so I would have this. It's the best I can do is just like add them together. Okay, now I have something in front of the y. I would divide them away, but if you do that, you have to do it to the entire other side. Now let me see if they're gonna, yeah, they do. Okay, so if you're dividing this entire side by 2, so I'm going to rewrite it. You have to divide the 2 into both of them. Now we're going to work with lines, I think, in the next chapter or soon. So when we divide by 2, we've got to give it into both of them, and it's a really important idea for something called the slope-intercept form. I gave the 2 to the 3, makes a fraction. I divide the 2 into the 9. Divide the 18 by 2, and I get 9, and there we go. So I took that 2 and divided them into both of them. Okay, they're telling us x, so I'm going to put that in my formula. Okay, those 3's would cancel. I've got 14 plus 4y equals 10. Now, basic equation. The 14 would be who we want to leave because we want the factor puzzle. I've got 4y equals negative 4. Divide both sides by 4, and I've got y is negative 1. Okay, in general, let's do it again here. 3x plus 4y equals 10. Everybody else is going to be treated like there was a number, so this would be like just one big number. He would be what we got rid of first by subtracting him. So we've got 4y is negative 3x plus 10. They don't really combine. Now, divide one side by 4. You got to do it to the entire other. I'm going to give the 4 to both of them. Divide it into both of them. And I get this. Now this on the back can be reduced, so I would go ahead and do that. They're both divisible by 2, so you get 5 over 2. Okay, they told us x. Okay, now the room's clean, he's together. We're just going to solve a basic one. 2y is negative 2. Y is negative 1. All right, in general, once again, he leaves first. treating them just like a big number. Okay, divide away the 2. Do it to one side, you do it to the entire other side. Now you got to give him to both. So it's negative 5 over 2x plus 9. Okay, now we're going to treat everything else here. We're solving for a this time, so all of this is like numbers. So normally we would combine them. So say this was, so I make myself a sample one if I need to. If everything else was a number, we would normally combine those and then subtract them to the other side. Well, these don't really combine, so I can do it individually here. I'm going to subtract b from both sides, and they don't go together, so the best I can do is p minus b equals a plus c. I can just write them over there. Now I got another number in the room that isn't supposed to be there, so I'm going to subtract away another c. And they don't really combine, so I got p minus b minus c equals a. Okay, so this is the same thing. I'm going to subtract away the a and then subtract away the c. So I've got p minus a minus c equals b. Alright, I think we've moved to just generic equations now, but it's the same. We've already done some of these. I would subtract away 6x from both sides. Okay, combine those. Now divide both sides by 5. Got to do it to the whole side. That's supposed to be a 13. So I've got y is negative 6 over 5x plus 13 over 5. I'm going to give him to both. Okay, same thing. Try it yourself if you want to. I'm going to treat it like a number. That 4x there, I'm just going to subtract it. Now, I'm writing it in the front all the time because I know what's coming when we work with lines, but now we divide 7 away. We get this. Now give the 7 to both of them. And I'm done. Now, I'm going quickly, but it's just because it's exactly the same. Okay, so we're getting used to solving equations when we have other I don't knows involved. And the secret is simply treat everything other than the one you want as if it's a number and follow the normal patterns. I will sometimes create like a generic version of the equation where I've made everything numbers so I can wrap my head around what needs to leave first.